Hello and welcome to today's webinar. See how the Managed Database Service can help you run lean. Today we are joined by our speaker, Mike Fergel. Mike started his career at Progress in 1989 in development. He has held many different roles during the time, including working on the OpenEdge database product and managing different development teams working on the OpenEdge database. In 2012, he joined the consulting team at Progress as Director of Database Services, where he and his team are responsible for managing over 2,000 distinct databases and over 140 terabytes of data and 175,000 connected users. As a former developer of the OpenEdge database, Mike brings a unique perspective as both a consumer of the OpenEdge technology and also a developer of the same technology. Mike has presented highly technical topics around the world at nearly all of the Progress conferences and PUGs. I will now turn it over to Mike so we can get started. Mike?
Thank you, Michelle. That was quite an intro. I appreciate it. So I'm here, as Michelle said, to talk about the Managed Database Service and how we can help you run your business probably more efficiently. So our agenda for today, we're going to talk about industry trends and how our solution fits into the industry trends, where we have multiple offerings that we're going to talk about today. I'll talk about the service team. Michelle just mentioned the metrics, but I'll show you how they've grown over time, and then we can talk about our customers and partners. And at the end, we'll take questions and answers. So first off, we're going to talk about the infrastructure trends that we see historically as well as today. Historically, people have run their OpenEdge applications or any applications on-premise. The benefits of being on-premise are it's what people have been doing for decades. You have control over the application. It's what you've been doing. You already have the infrastructure available to you. The drawbacks are you need infrastructure maintenance and need on-site maintenance resources. And we find this specifically with OpenEdge that it's getting harder and harder to find OpenEdge talent. Specifically, what's happening is the OpenEdge ecosystem, people are aging out, retiring, moving on, and it's hard to find that person who has the 5 to 10 years experience that you need. You might be able to find somebody that has 20 or 30 years experience, but that may be out of your budget. So a trend is happening in this space, not just with OpenEdge, but with all software that people are selling. Software as a service deployed on the cloud. The benefits are it's typically lower cost than on-premise. There's no infrastructure or hiring concerns. It's a growing trend. Most software companies are allowing you to deploy their applications on the cloud. However, there are still some drawbacks. Now you no longer have ownership of your data. So your data is now in the cloud where somebody else is doing the management of it. And that may not fit all customers. And you also have to have an application that's able to run in the cloud. You're now running over a WAN, a wide area network. So if your application is a client server application, most likely the cloud is not for you unless you have some sort of hosting mechanism to allow you to have quick access to the cloud infrastructure. And then, like any change, there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt that prevents people from making a change. What I have today just works. Why would I change it? So where does our managed database service fit in this ecosystem of on-premise in the cloud? So what we provide are cloud benefits without having to move to the cloud. If you're an application that is not cloud ready, meaning client server, or not modern, then managed database service can give you those cloud benefits without actually making the move. If you're a customer that cannot move to the cloud due to compliance or regulatory, again, you can get the cloud benefits by using our managed database service. So what are the benefits here? You still have control of the application, the data, so you have less security risks. It's what you're doing today. You already have the infrastructure. We know this because you're running an OpenEdge application on-premise. But the difference here is you don't need resources on site. What you're doing is offshoring the resources to maintain and manage the application. And this is for sure going to be lower cost than the traditional on-premise full-time resource. And the resources we have are highly skilled with 20 to 30 years experience. However, like anything that is on-premise, you still have to maintain the infrastructure. So what is the managed database service? This is the solution where we're seeking the benefits of the cloud without the time and cost to migrate to the cloud. So the managed database service starts with software. It's the foundation of how the service operates. So we have software that's been around for 25 years called ProMonitor, and this software samples and monitors databases, app servers, web speed, admin servers, PAS-OE. It has thresholds that are set, and as it samples data, it measures against the thresholds, and if a threshold is exceeded, it sends an email alert to the on-call DBA. It's not just to the on-call DBA, it's going to be an email alert to people on-premise as well as the on-call DBA. And every database and every app server can have their own thresholds. Every customer signed up for the managed database has a primary DBA. This is the account manager for the service. So this is the person that documents the environment. It's the person that would do meetings with you on a regular basis, understand what's going on in your system, and providing guidance for moving forward. In addition, that primary DBA is responsible for the clear documentation that we have for our on-call rotation. Our on-call rotation rotates through the team because the primary DBA may not always be available. They may be on vacation, it may be the middle of the night, and they're not available. However, the on-call has no level 1 support. The DBA team is who is on call. So if something happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, there is no triage center. When we get the call, it is the person who is solving the problem on the phone. The only time we transition are for 2 reasons. One is the primary DBA available because they're going to have more familiarity with the system, or 2, is there a long-running problem that's going to cross the time zone boundary where we'll transition from one region of the world to another region of the world. So here's the software. This is an example. The software has a heartbeat process that runs every minute to make sure that things are alive. In addition, it has a monitoring piece that samples every 15 minutes. Both of these are customizable. If you don't want the heartbeat to run every minute, it can run every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes. If you want the sample to run more frequently than 15 minutes, we can adjust that as well. So the heartbeat's just making sure that everything's running. The sampling is collecting the metrics and measuring against thresholds. If a threshold is exceeded, an alert is sent out to the team via email. Then periodically, we send the data we're collecting, which is all the performance metrics of the database, create, read, update, delete, as well as all the internal database metrics that are available. We send that data to the cloud via email to our backend parser that throws it into a large backend database. That database right now is about 3 terabytes in size of just numbers. That database is what hosts a website for you to look at the metrics, so you can self-service look at the create, read, update, delete activity of your database. And it's also useful for the primary DBA to look at your system to see if there's anything abnormal. And we also do monthly reporting based on the data that's in the backend database. We do this on purpose. We do not want to have the DBA constantly logging into your system to be able to just look at things that they could look at in the backend database. So the backend database has a web-based dashboard both for you, the customer, as well as the primary DBA internally, so they can make decisions without having to log in. So we have 2 types of subscriptions. The first subscription includes our onboarding, which tends to be 16 hours for a typical site. The 24/7 monitoring support, preventive and proactive maintenance, planning, monthly reports, the web-based dashboard, as I mentioned, and technical advice. All this is included in the monthly subscription. So what happens? You have an alert that comes in. It comes to the on-call DBA, and we go and log in to solve that problem. We can solve the majority of problems within that hour period. However, if it takes longer than an hour, after an hour, we're going to start billing. We are a consulting division, so we get the hour free, and then if it's longer than that, we start billing at the hourly rate. There are other customers that don't want to see these odd billing happen, or they want us to take a more active role in their planned maintenance. So the MDBA Plus subscription, which is the one in the middle, that includes everything that the basic subscription has. Again, the monitoring, the monthly reports, the proactive aspects, but it also includes consulting hours. We do these in blocks of 10, highly discounted. These are 10 hours a month, use it or lose it. They typically are 50% discounted if you used all 10. So the break even is if you use 4 or 5 hours, you'd break even on what the monthly cost would be for this added service. And in addition, the database team is always available to help with planned work. Planned work would be platform migrations, OpenEdge upgrades, performance tuning that's deeper dive than what we're doing in a monthly report, dumping and loading, a health check, disaster recovery, so on and so forth. So the service that we have is big. We have 150 customers today. We're doing 2,100 databases. We're dumping and loading databases every single weekend. You can imagine just that number of databases, that volume at any given weekend, somebody requires that maintenance. So we're experts in that aspect as well. So what is the onboarding service? This is where we install the pro mod of the software. We document the environment, and this is where we'll also make stability and performance recommendations. The last thing we want is to take on an environment that is having problems and not addressing those problems. We do not want to get alerts all the time. We don't want you to get alerts all the time. So what we do is we will do an implementation document that describes where we install the software and what we think you need to do to your environment to make it run better. The majority of our customers, when we onboard them, we make recommendations for changes, and once those changes have been implemented, they get better performance, they get better reliability. Many times we've had customers come to us to join our service because they've had instability, and we've proven that within a month or two, all those instabilities go away. The basic includes any reactive service for business critical issues. As I mentioned before, the first hour is free. After the first hour, our normal billing rates apply. The web-based dashboard is available. Proactive analysis and monthly reports. The monthly reports are the time where we do a deeper dive on your environment. Instead of just looking at the dashboard, we provide a 6-month trend of your busiest tables, your busiest databases, what the growth looks like, what we forecast growth for the next 6 months for both database size as well as storage area size. And this is where the DBA will identify any service items that have to come up. And typically what happens after this is the monthly report goes out, we schedule a call, we walk through the monthly report and make sure everybody understands where you are today and where you need to be looking to in the future. And then we're always available for technical advice. If you have any questions relating to the OpenEdge environment, we have a team of experts. You can ask us and we'll respond as part of the service. So this includes the 24/7 monitoring with a guaranteed response time. We are tied to an SLA. It's preventative and proactive maintenance. It's proactive planning and monthly review. And we have database experts here to help you out. They act as a member of your team. And this is a common thing. People sometimes think that the managed database is a replacement for on-premise staff, and that's not always the case. It can be. With the customer base we have right now, some of our customers leverage us and our team as their only resource for OpenEdge work. Other customers have OpenEdge experts on staff, and we're only there as an insurance for them. Allows those experts to go on vacation or be available for the weekend. Those are the two extremes. The majority of our customers have some sort of OpenEdge expertise in-house, and we're now an extension of the team. So to recap again what the plus includes everything that the basic includes, but we include consulting hours. We do this in blocks of 10 hours, the highly discounted, and the way we deal with this is we increase the monthly fee. So your monthly fee increases, but you now have 10 hours or 20 hours or 30 hours or 40 hours of consulting time. Why do we do this? We have found as we grew this business that customers did not like having unexpected billing. So the smaller customers, it wasn't a big deal. They could pay those unexpected bills. The larger customers, the effort to get a PO for a $175 charge was way more cost than the $175 charge. So we learned this, and so we dealt with that by building in these blocks of time, guaranteeing them that they know exactly what the annual spend will be on the managed database service, provided there's no major catastrophe. And as mentioned before, our additional services include health checks and everything else I mentioned before. So I'm very proud of our services team. We have 19 DBAs worldwide, each with at least 20 years of experience. In the introduction, you heard my experience where I was the developer of the database, one of the developers of the database. We have people in the US team that are from development of the OpenEdge database, as well as support staff for the OpenEdge technology stack, as well as just DBAs that have this experience at large ERP installations, all with at least 20 years experience. In Australia, we have 3 people that have worked for more than 20 years as technical support reps. And in Europe, we have 5 people, 3 in the Rotterdam office that were all in tech support, and 2 in the UK office that were consultants. So it's a mix of consultants and tech support reps, again, all with 20 years experience. There is no other team in the OpenEdge ecosystem that has the powerhouse that we have. Our DBAs are located in 6 time zones in 4 countries, as you can see here. We've got 2 areas in the East Coast. We have the West Coast of the US. We're in 2 regions in Australia, Melbourne and Perth, and then we're in Rotterdam and the UK. And it shows right here. So if you look at our growth, we're growing year over year over year. People are finding value in the managed database service. We're currently at 150 customers, over 2,100 databases being maintained, 145 terabytes of database space with over 170,000 connected users at any given time. Our growth continues year over year. We expect to add 20 to 30 customers this year like we had in the past years. So who are our customers, and how do we interface with those customers? Well, we have 2 models. We have a direct model where we work directly with the end user. Our contract is with the end user. This end user could be a direct end user. This end user could be an application partner's end user. We do very well with the QAD end user community. We do very well with the Infor SX Enterprise end user community. We do have some partners that have the customers that have come directly with us as well. And then the other operating model is through application partners. And we have 2 ways to work here. One, we do a referral, which is basically the same thing as our direct customer. The contract's with the end user, but it was the application partner that introduced them, so they get a referral fee. And then our other model is through the partner, where we work with the application partner, our contracts with the application partner. In this case, the software is installed. The partner is the one that's going to be getting the alerts, not us, but we're here as the support for the partner. So our SLA is tied to the partner, not to the end customer. So in the event that the partner can't figure out what's going on, they can contact us, and within that SLA agreement, we will go and help the partner to go help their end user. Who are our customers? Again, 150 of them. We're doing very well in North America. We're growing in Europe, and we have a pretty good footprint in Australia. So we're in manufacturing, healthcare, warehouse distribution, financial services. We're all over the map. You would think that hospitals and financial services would not be able to do this. Well, we're able to do this. And one of the questions that comes up a lot is, how do we work with these customers that might have tighter security than others? Most customers give us independent VPN, where we are logging into the system to be able to go solve the problems. Some customers don't allow that. So in that case, we can be effective, not as well effective as we would be if we had independent VPN, but we can work with customers that have a lot more lockdown environment. We would do a screen share for them. Another area that we run into is customers that require U.S. persons. This means a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. We have mechanisms in place to deal with this. So even though we have DBAs that are located outside the U.S., in the event that they call off hours, we have the ability to redirect that to a U.S. person based in the U.S. So what else can we do? The database team, unlike other teams that are trying to do the same thing, the database team is doing managed database first. That's our business. 19 DBAs that are out there supporting these 150 customers. However, by design, it is a support organization, so there is room for us to do other work. So one of the most popular things that we do is a database health check. This is a comprehensive review of the deployed OpenEdge environment. It's a 3-day engagement. Within By the second day, you'll have a report that's very, very comprehensive. It's about 30 to 40 pages, and it's template based, so everybody gets a look at all the same things, and then based on what we're seeing, we may go different directions to make the set of recommendations. The recommendations are value-based recommendations. We're not just going to say go and dump and load your database or just go change this configuration parameter. The document is built to educate. The goal is to educate and then work on implementation based on the knowledge that the documentation was giving you. So if you need to dump and load, the document's going to describe why you need to dump and load. Here's the proof that you need to dump and load, and here's what the result will be after you dump and load. So we do typically 2 of these a week, roughly 100 of these a year. So we're seeing a whole bunch of different environments. Never mind the 150 customers we have on our managed database practice. We're seeing 100 other customers' environments. And so if you have an issue, most likely we've seen it before, or if you think you have a performance problem, we can compare your environment to other environments to see how they are performing on similar hardware, similar applications, different applications. Another popular thing we do is disaster recovery planning. We will create a disaster recovery plan for your OpenEdge database. This is the experts that we do this for all of our managed database customers. We have the know-how. We can document this. We use OE Replication Plus. We know it's not just the database. So this service is not just implementing OE Replication or OE Replication Plus. This service is doing that. That's the small part of it, but also making sure the application can run in a failed over environment. Are all the application files being replicated? How often are they being replicated? Are all user accounts being replicated? Can you print? Are all printers defined? We are soup to nuts making sure that if you have a disaster in your local region, that you can fail over to another region and run the application in that region. And then, as mentioned before, we're available to do platform migrations. We do about these once a month. So we're experts at getting people to migrate off of HPUX onto Linux, for example. Upgrades as people are moving from OpenEdge 10 to OpenEdge 11 and OpenEdge 11 to OpenEdge 12. We're here to help you be able to do those transitions. Performance tuning, dump and loads. We are performing a dump and load every weekend for our customers and OpenEdge version upgrades. And finally, we are experts in feature implementation. So we work for Progress. We know all the Progress features and how to implement them. So we can implement OE management for you, auditing, TDE, which is transparent data encryption, table partitioning, replication, as mentioned before, multi-tenancy, SSL, and more. So we are the experts when it comes to implementing any of the new features in OpenEdge. Before I open this up to questions, I would like to mention that we are going to be at both the Pug Challenge in the Americas in Manchester, New Hampshire, October 6th through 9th, where we have a managed database booth specifically to talk about this service. I'll be there to answer any questions you may have. In addition, we'll be at the Pug Challenge in EMEA in Barcelona, Spain. So I will not be there, but Marek Bujanowski, my manager over in Europe, will be there to answer questions as well. So now I'm going to hand it back for any questions you have.
Thanks, Mike. I do have a few already, so let me dive in. So, Mike, the first question is, what does this cost?
That's a good question. So it is value-based. So the larger the environment, the higher the cost is. But in general, we tend to try to make the cost be somewhere between 1/3 and 1/4 of what a full-time headcount would be. So hence, we know that if this is a replacement resource for somebody that retired or moved on, that this would be a lower cost than hiring a full-time employee.
Next question. Do you need to have VPN access to the machine and root access to the machine?
So as I mentioned before, we have some customers that are just screen share only. So we don't need VPN. Having VPN is ideal, but it's not required. For root access, the only time you really need root access is to install the OpenEdge product. depending on how you're configured, you don't need to have root access to start up and shut down the database. And that's mostly the type of recovery that we'd do if something went wrong. So many times we don't need to have elevated privileges. And some customers we do, it's just the way they're set up, but other customers we recommend not to, and we know how to make the environment run so it doesn't need those elevated privileges.
Okay. Next question. Is this monitoring just the database, or are there other pieces being monitored?
Yeah, I didn't cover that. We certainly monitor the database, the app servers, web speed, the admin server, Tomcat, so the whole entire stack, including the PAS-OE portion of the stack. But we also are collecting metrics for CPU utilization, disk space, and we're also collecting metrics on disk speed. So we do not tend to send alerts for CPU. We can, but we find that causes too much noise. But we do have alerts that are for file space usage. So if you're running out of disk space, that's critical because that could have an unplanned outage. Having a CPU usage spike is probably not going to cause you an outage. So we tend not to put an alert there. However, we can. And this brings up another point is we have two levels of alerting. We have alerting that's informational. An informational alert could have been that you had a CPU spike, could have been that you had too many checkpoints. It could have been that you have a BI file growing. And then we have critical alerts. Critical alerts are the database is down, you have a long-running transaction that exceeded a limit, the BI file has grown higher than you want. So we could have an alert that is non-critical for the BI file growth, and then that same alert would end up being critical when the BI file grew larger than expected. So the alerting is very flexible. And then based on the type of alert, the SLA is tied to the critical alerts. The informational alerts are really just informational.
Thank you. Okay, we've got quite a few flowing in now. So, next question. Do you offer these services with hosting included? So, that would be a database as a service.
We do not. We are happy to help you host. We have a hosting partner called IS Corp. We could have you hosted there and we could do the managed there, or we could help you in a public cloud like Amazon or Azure. Happy to help you do that. We have many customers that they are considered to be on-prem because they're not managed by the cloud, by the application partner in their cloud, but yet they are in Amazon or they are in some Earthlink hosting center somewhere. So the fact that they are not really on-prem but hosted somewhere means that they are hosted, but that hosting is not being hosted by Progress. We do not have a hosting service. We have a hosting partner, IS Corp, and again, we've got many customers and a lot of expertise of moving people to Amazon mostly, but Azure as well. And in fact, Amazon is talking to us personally. They have reached out to us. They are interested in helping our customers move to the Amazon cloud. So we are working with them to come up with staging levels so that we could have machines that are defined for small, medium, large, extra large workloads that are pre-configured, predefined. And we might even get to the point that you could take an Amazon instance and it'll be pre-configured with OpenEdge in it. We're not there yet, but we're in those discussions with Amazon. So this is certainly a place that we're moving to, is to help people migrate to a off-premise cloud platform, but it won't be an OpenEdge cloud at this point.
Okay. Next, what is minimum consulting hours needed for basic monitoring?
So the onboarding is 16 hours to install the software, document the environment, do the health check as we talked about. So that's the minimum. That's for an environment where everything's sitting on one machine. If you have another database on a second machine, then it's not as big. It's only 4 more hours to add that one to the environment, to document that one, do that health check on that database. I think that's what you're asking. Once the software is installed, the monitoring is taking place, and we're now there with you, getting alerts, looking at trends, and reacting to the alerts. And again, if we are doing things that are project-based or we have an outage that takes more than an hour, we're going to have fees incurred if it's over that hour. Hence, we have that MDBA plus that includes the 10 hours a month, so that way you're not getting any unexpected fees.
Great. Next question. Can we encrypt the data within the database so that you don't see it?
Yes, that is an interesting question. This comes up often. We get asked, do we have access to the data? And it's kind of a mixed answer. We do not typically have access to the application. So the application is what knows how to read the data, knows what tables and fields are, and how things are being pulled from the database. We, as people that are at the database level, uh, we don't really have that level of access. While we could go connect to the editor and try to figure it out, that's not what we're doing. So from a pure sense, yes, we do have access to the data. If it was encrypted on disk, well, the language, once you read rows from a table, it becomes decrypted, and now it's clear ASCII text. So there is really no way to encrypt the data so nobody can see it. But if you restrict access to the application, that's going to get you 99% there. So from our standpoint, we don't run the application. We don't see the data. While we may have some obscure ability to go look at the data if we really wanted to, it's not something that we could do. And there are mechanisms to lock that down too, if need be. We could make sure that nobody has access to get to the editor, for example.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Next question. Are you managing MS SQL Server also? If yes, what are the performance measures you use to test?
We do not currently have a managed service around SQL Server. We are only, the key thing here is we are the OpenEdge database as the platform. So even if you're running an OpenEdge application where you're using the data server to SQL Server, I don't perceive that you'd get a lot of value out of the service, because most of the service is around collecting the metrics on the OpenEdge database. So we do not have a SQL Server managed offering at this point.
Is this consumed as a service for the database, or do we have to put full servers in your environment like Amazon?
We're not moving anything. This is a piece of software, very small, all 4GL code that lives on your machine. It doesn't have to be on your production machine. You can spin up a VM, and we could do client server connection to the database to go collect the metrics. So we're not moving things out of your hosting facility, whether that's on premise or in a hosting site. So we're not moving anything. We're working within your environment. This brings up another question. We're also not adhering to a standard. We're going to make recommendations on best practice for configuration, but we're not going to force you to change your startup scripts, shutdown scripts to adhere to a standard that meets our needs. We document very well, so we're going to document your environment. So when a DBA logs into your environment, they know how to operate in your environment unmodified. So we're not moving anything. We're not changing much. The only changes we're recommending, which you could say no to, are things that are going to give you more reliability, more stability, and more speed.
Can you give us a sense, Mike, of the sizes of the databases in your inventory?
Yeah, it's all over the map. Small customers live at the 1, 2, 3 gigabyte range, and that's at the lower end of extremes. Larger customers live at the 2, 3, 4 terabyte range, and that again is at the large end of the extreme. The majority of the databases sit in the somewhere between 50 and 500 gigabyte range. From a user count, they are typically 80 to 800 users is the typical. So that's our sweet spot, is that middle range. But we certainly have customers that are on the low range because they have no OpenEdge expertise, and we have customers at the high range, and that would be the ones where they have a lot of expertise on premise, but where their insurance policy. So that way we're covering vacations, and we're there just in case something happens and they need some extra set of eyes.
Great. Will the monitoring tool / software pull monitoring data and send to your server?
Yes. So what we're doing is we have a local database. The ProMonitor database has a local database, and this product existed for 25 years. So it has a character-based interface to it. So we keep 2 weeks of data local on the machine. So if you wanted to go look at the data on the machine, you could go start up the character interface and look at the data that we're collecting. We're collecting create, read, update, delete, database reads, database writes, BI writes, all that information. We're also collecting which tables are being read the most, create, read, update, delete. We're also collecting which users are doing most of the reads. So within the application that's on premise with the 2 weeks, we can do a deep dive into see exactly what happened when. But likewise, we're also uploading this data periodically, typically hourly. It's being uploaded to our backend database through email, and that's what feeds the web-based portal. So the web-based portal is about an hour behind where the local pro monitor database is live sampling.
Thank you. Okay, this is a QAD specific question. Can you describe how you partner with QAD to provide many of these services, OEA, OER, etc.? Since QAD tends to take over support for their products, how do you deal with changes to their product that may or may not violate their support?
We've not had any support issues with QAD. QAD certainly knows that we have this offering. We've presented this presentation at QAD Explore. We go to the Midwest user group and we are presenting this there. So they're very well aware of the service. Where we compete is we compete with QAD in the cloud. So if you're on-prem, if you're a QAD customer on-prem, this service may be useful for you. If you move to QAD cloud, then this service is of no value to you because you no longer have the data on-prem. So QAD understands that, and they know that the cloud is not for everybody. They would love to get everybody to the cloud. We're a great stopgap. So they actually are happy with us helping customers stay on QAD and being managed, having help management until they're ready to move to the QAD cloud. We implement Pro2, we implement OE replication, we do dump and loads for customers. We get referral business from QAD. So QAD refers QAD consulting to us. So we have a great relationship. So we're not violating any support agreement between Progress and QAD or a QAD customer in QAD.
Thank you. I think we're winding down with questions now. Just a couple left. So, one, do you support Pro 2?
We do. So if you're a Pro2 customer, and let me answer that a little bit more detailed. So our base monitoring is around the database, app servers, web speed, Tomcat, PAS-OE. So that's the basic OpenEdge ecosystem. If you're running OE replication, that's an add-on feature from Progress. We can monitor and alert on that as well and include that in the service. If you're a Pro2 customer, we can monitor the Pro2 threads, whether they're running or not. We trend the REPL queue so we can see historically how backed up the REPL queue is, and we alert on the REPL queue both for depth of the REPL queue, how many rows are in the REPL queue, as well as lag time, what the oldest row in the REPL queue is, how old it is. So yes, we do this both for OE replication, that's an add-on to MDBA, and Pro2, and that's an add-on to MDBA as well.
Great. Okay, last question, and I think this is a good way to wrap up. If we're interested in this, who do we schedule a meeting with to discuss our options?
Well, I think that's great. If you're interested, you do have a sales rep. Contact your sales rep to start with. If you're going to the Pug Challenge, find me. I can help you with that. But start with your sales rep. Your sales rep will then schedule a meeting with a consulting sales rep and myself. We have a sizing document that we send out. It's a 1-page, 10-question document that's asking you what OpenEdge version you're on, how big is your database, how many users, so on and so forth. That gives us a view into your environment, and then from there we can talk about what the service would look like and what the cost would be.
Great. Okay, we will wrap up now. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again, Mike, as well.
Thank you.